Welcome to Life
On
Life's
Terms.
episode 73 with your host Justin and
Kenny.
Today we're going to get into where are we going to find the answers to our relationship shortcomings that we talked about in the previous episode. What was the lowest point in our relationships with ourselves? And some of the most messed up relationships we've been in and bad breakups. But before we get into those things, we'd like to do our shout out. So if you want to run down Ono Poke.
Whoop whoop. Ono Poke is a chef-driven fast casual restaurant serving Hawaii's signature dish. Their menu features curated poke bowls. Customers can select various bases for the bowls, including fur cake rice, quinoa, and spring salad, along with vegetables, seasonings, and protein options such as the torch miso salmon poke, the albacore tuna, and the spicy Thai salmon poke. Or you can build your own bowl. Ono in Hawaiian means delicious, and that's what it is. You can find them at 10142 104 Street, Edmonton. I love that shit.
And various locations in Western Canada as well as
Google
America.
them. Google them.
Modern Gravity is the best place to relax with their spacious float tanks. If you have not floated, you have to try this. I mean, you got to. February and January is always a stressful month. For only $39.99 a month, you can enjoy a float a month and let it all go. Please go to Modern Gravity's website at www.moderngravity.ca
Doo-dooch.
and log in and get yourself a float.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you know actually Ono Poke is very, very popular in America?
Is it?
Yeah, it's catching on very, very quickly. They've been around for a little while down in the States, but because I went and Googled it just to see.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere down in America.
Wow.
Like it's almost as everywhere as McDonald's is everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty. Yeah. So where you're going to find your resources for some of the shortcomings that we discussed yesterday for relationships.
The all-seeing eye.
Oh yeah, Google.
For the most of it, I'm going to look into the deep, dark depths of the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
I will read Codependent No More by Melanie Beattie this month.
Melody.
Melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that in early recovery. I know somebody who just recently read it, and do the work at the end of the chapters. It's well worth it.
Well, I actually have the workbook too.
Yeah.
Like I had the workbook prior to having the book, so I have them both. So I have some shit cut out for me this month.
At first, it kind of feels like a shit kicking.
It is. Like I'm maybe like a couple chapters in or something like that, maybe like 20, 30 pages. Yeah. And I'll read a couple pages, I'll be like, well, I'm a goof.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the worst human being because like, if you do this and this, then you're a fucking codependent.
Yeah.
And if you do this and this, then you're codependent. And I'm like checking off the list. Like I maybe missed 2 on the whole list.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things is that we actually believe that that's love. When like prior to reading the book, you read the book and you're like, holy shit, the way that I'm loving is wrong. Like that's what it almost feels like. And so one of the things that I took away from that book when reading it was, well, who taught me how to love? A codependent person.
Your mama.
And and other people in my family, which is my mom and her siblings and her own mother was all codependent. Mm-hmm. So what was my example to be?
Yeah.
So why was it that my relationships were never working out? Well, I'm codependent sick fuck. That's what I am.
But it would work great if you found yourself another codependent sick fuck.
But it doesn't. I've been in those where 2 people are codependent, and then what ends up happening is you play. Well, in my experience, what ended up happening was we played opposites of each other. Right? So one person's playing the fixer and the other one's playing the victim all the time. Then all of a sudden, the rules change.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just a mess. Like that just becomes a mess. So you'll see throughout the book what Melody's kind of diagnosis is in order to change. And if there's so one of the one of the sources I'm going to use is I know some pretty strong Catholic marriages where these Catholic marriages have been together, 25, 35 years. And you kind of want to know, well, how did that happen? you know. And the guy's one of them is he's a pretty dominant guy. You know, he's an ex-politician here in Alberta, and his wife is a beautiful woman, and I just want to know how he was able to separate. She for sure did not see his political views throughout their entire relationship or their entire marriage. And I kind of want to know how they were able to get 35 years married while that happened, because that's a paralysis of mine. So I kind of want to see a source of, what are your kind of go-tos, you know? And then I'll probably look at Google, and I'll probably listen to some of Jordan Peterson's podcasts, because he talks a lot about how him and his wife kind of get together and how fighting is okay, and learning how to fight or have a disagreement that's not long lasting, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to accept that afterwards, because it's very important that your relationship goes through those things.
Well, right now I'm practicing pacifying. I've learned that from my stepdad with the 2 magic words.
What's that?
Yes, dear.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I mean, being somebody who comes from a behavioral dysfunction as addiction, which comes with a whole bunch of probably massive shortcomings, I realized that I say this all the time for amends. You need to write a script for your amends, because you'll say sorry for shit that you're not sorry for, like the sun shining in their eyes. Right? And then when you do that kind of stuff, what ends up happening is it makes your apology disingenuous, because now you're saying sorry for anything, although that's the way that we feel. We feel compelled to do that. Yeah. Because a lot of us are people pleasers. And when you're a people pleaser, that can be a paralysis, because we're the ones, I had to learn this, that I couldn't please everybody in life. And it's okay that I can't. Sometimes I just can't. I never make an obligation that I don't think I can commit to anymore. I used to do that shit all the time, and I would just run. I was running like a fucking chicken with my head cut off all of the time. And I felt like an asshole all the time, because there'd be the 1 or 2 things
that you couldn't do for somebody.
That's right.
And then you're like, oh, I'm so sorry I couldn't do that.
And then guilt and shame comes in.
One of the lowest vibrational feelings.
And then you're forever feeling like you have to make it up to them.
Yeah.
Right? And then so now you've given people or this person all this power, and they don't even know it. Right? Because it's all based on guilt and shame, because you couldn't get over yourself, you know? And so I learned that was a huge paralysis for myself. I learned that in early recovery. And today I do not, I just don't go there. I know how much time I have in a day. I know who's on my pecking order for priorities. And that's how life is ran today. You know, does the pecking order change? Sure it does. You know, at times, people change in their pecking order positions for myself, but that's just what it is. That's life. You can't please
placate everybody all the time,
and you can't placate people where it's like they have this position for the rest of their lives. Kind of like, you know, when we were in the old life, the boss always came first. You know, it came before the wife, came before the kids, came before all of it. And so I just don't do that anymore, because I know the second that I do that and have a loyalty only to one thing, my mind goes right away into that old mentality of thinking that we Italians call it trattoria, which is like a traditional way of living with lealtà. And lealtà is like the loyalty of a dog in a traditional way, you know? And it's just, for me, it's just not a good place to be. Because I'll become very narrow-minded. You know what I mean?
You got to look out for number 1, man.
Well, and even then, I try to be cautious.
Well, in relationship sense, you can't be absolutely 100% committed to the other person, because you need to have that commitment to yourself as well.
Well, you're going to see very quickly in that Melody Beattie book where she starts talking about taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
In order to learn how to appreciate yourself. So remember, I kept saying way earlier, how do you love yourself every day?
You know what? Like, I was reiterating what you said, and what was the gentleman's name again who had the roller derby?
Amith
Pratap, right?
Pratap, yeah.
Pratap, yeah. so how he said, live your life like a business.
Yeah.
Last night, I'm like, live my life like a business. Now, what the fuck does that look like? And I'm starting to think like, well, if I'm living like my life like a business, then everything becomes organized and regimented and documented and has to be conducted in a proper method and action with integrity, and there has to be a proper turnover. Like there has to be a bottom line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I started those gears going. Like I don't have it all pieced together yet, so I can't give everybody like, oh, this is how my life business is going to look. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I'm really taking that to heart because I think that'll work good in relationship as well.
So one thing I need to compliment you on, that I was just sitting back this morning and I was thinking about this, but I don't know if you had recognized before last month, your business sense was okay, but you didn't really understand the working gears in the beginning of it, or like the legal side and how it all comes together.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I recognized yesterday when you and I were having the conversations, you're actually educated now. Like we can have a real conversation about what an incorporation looks like, how to incorporate, how to do things in a legal fashion, and you're not sitting in an oblivious place acting like you know about 50% of what we're talking about. you actually know, because I get it. You know, faking it till you make it is a great skill that we all can possess.
Yeah,
that.
But when it comes to organizing or legalizing your business,
or even working as a legal entity.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can say with full fairness now, you understand it. You have a much better understanding and grasp of what the consequences are if you don't. And you also understand now what can happen if
you go off half-cocked.
Yeah. Like you have a real good understanding because of the litigation.
Just that alone, that one term, that one statement, going off half-cocked. You don't want to go off half-cocked.
And I think like before the month, if I could be so vulgar to say this, I don't think you really understood what half-cocked was.
No, I didn't know, because I was like, I thought it was ambition.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, you can be ambitious. That's great, but be measured with your ambition.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
right.
Make it measurable.
And so I really wanted to make sure I gave you that compliment on air, because it is it really is. I mean, I think we've learned a lot over not just about podcasting, but all the stuff that's come throughout the last season and season 1 to now.
If we bring a professional on here, and that gives us fuel for conversations for 2 episodes afterwards, because we're still in awe with all the new shit that we learned.
Yeah.
And like I'm learning, I'm like, just from this podcast platform alone, I'm becoming more professional in my everyday actions.
It's pretty cool. Like I said, I always suspected that you and I would finally get to a place where we could have a legitimate conversation about a startup and what incorporation looks like and why we do what we're doing and how that looks. But it's fascinating to see how quick your turnaround was within the month, just hearing the episode with Liam and sitting in on the episode with Liam, watching Lewis Cardinal and talking about how he basically derives his business and what that model looks like.
Yeah.
And then seeing you kind of like formulate exactly how this all looks. It's pretty intense to see that intellectual growth.
Thanks, bro.
You know, it's pretty cool, man. Like it really is, because it's the worst is sitting, and Amos and I talked about this off air. The worst is sitting down with somebody who doesn't really have a good idea. They think they do, but they also don't know how to incorporate it. And they're asking you basically for business consulting advice. And you're like, fuck, I really don't want to feed into this guy's delusion. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that you've ever had that, but you can actually put yourself in that place now. Like if you're sitting down with somebody and they have a good idea and they're talking to you, because entrepreneurs attract entrepreneurs. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so when you're sitting down with somebody, you can actually say to them, you know what, I kind of have an idea of what the process is to incorporate. And I think it's a great idea. I might be able to save you some lawyer's fees, and let's go incorporate this. I'll give it a shot. I'll throw in my $250. You throw in your $250. Let's go get the paperwork and let's go put this together. And then I'll chuck a lawyer $100 to peruse it.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
But you actually have that ability now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And
now
then,
what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's like, oh, yeah, I think we have to go get a GST number. Like, how do you get that? Well, but now you actually know that process. So it's really cool. It's really cool to see that. And it's pretty amazing. So that's what I'm pretty amazed to see what's going to happen next month in relationships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. My girlfriend's like excited and scared at the same time. We had that talk last night. Like, I'll try not to embarrass you on air, babe.
Yeah.
Try. You know what that word means, right?
Well, it's like I said, going back to where we had started from, as in getting our sources and considering the sources to see how we can eliminate these shortcomings, if that's what we want to call them, or these things that we've kind of seen, like, for instance, what was the question yesterday is, well, what do you want to learn out of, and it was kind of a loaded question if you look at it. What do you want to learn out of relationships over the next month for topics? It's basically your shortcomings. You know what I mean? Like, like that's why you want to learn about it, and you've already seen that, well, that could be an issue. Yeah. So it's kind of, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, and we're going to try to bring things in, bring certain guests in for the listeners to listen to. I'm going to try to bounce off some questions off of them too, and see how that can all tie in to some of our shortcomings. And then also go out and do my own research and see what that prevails as well. So I'm really excited. I do have a question for you, though. How are you going to go about keeping the fire alive?
Lots of dirty sex.
Yeah? But, okay, but what are you going to do for research outside of that? Yeah.
Outside of the dirty sex?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask some old couples.
You know what's funny? Okay, so I'm going
to ask a couple old couples.
I heard this shit
just
and I didn't
to hear
believe
what they
it.
say.
I heard this shit a little while ago. I didn't believe it, and I looked it up, and it's fucking real. Do you know that old age homes have the highest outbreak of STDs and STIs right now?
What?
Yeah, because they're all fucking with Viagra. All of them. And the worst is in Alzheimer's homes, because they can't remember, one, who they fucked, and secondly, what they have. I'm not even
Holy fuck.
Like, that's what's happening.
That is atrocious.
And here in Canada, because once you get like a certain age, a lot of your medication is like subsidized. Well, guess what's subsidized is Viagra. I'm like, fuck it. Why not?
Well,
why not let them...
I tried to get some dick pills before when I had benefits at this job.
Yeah.
They weren't covered. But for seniors,
well, they have a different. There's a subsidy. It's not fully covered.
I almost had a heart attack with Viagra before.
That could happen, but so back to the old people. They're. I mean, I have nothing against it.
Well, I think I'll be able to get a few good ones out of them, and how some old people have that real good sense of humor. That's what I'm gonna look for. Hopefully I get it right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to poke maybe 3. I don't want to go too buck with it. But then also I'll do my due diligence with a little bit of all-seeing eye research.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's always deep.
Yeah. But I think I wonder if they'll let me record their answer.
It's up to you.
I'll just play it with my recorder against the mic.
We can plug it through.
Yeah.
There's always ways to figure that out. But yeah, so I'm interested to see how you're gonna go about that.
I'll just go ask my mom. Not.
Yeah, that's probably not a question you really. Yeah. I think you would need a psychologist after that. If she answered, then you definitely need a psychologist. I'm saying you need a psychologist for the thought of thinking about asking her.
Fuck, my mom made me laugh so much the other day. I was visiting her and she was talking with my girlfriend about this individual that's in my life, and I've never heard my mom say shit like this before, but she's like, he probably has short man syndrome and a little tiny dick. And I was like, look at her, Mom. What? You don't even know what those fucking things are. Shut up.
Says the guy who got caught by his mom nailing some broad in his fucking bedroom.
At her house.
At her house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Poor mother.
says this guy. You know?
Poor mother.
Lowest point in the relationship with yourself?
Oh, that was a deep, dark moment. I'd honestly have to say, I was in the hospital for a blood infection, and I was fucking smashing dope into the IV.
That's rough.
So like I was like, I'm already dying, but I was coming out of it. Like I almost died.
Yeah.
I literally thought that like I was within maybe 6 hours of death had I not made it to the hospital and get an IV put in right away. And they just pumped antibiotics into my body, into my bloodstream for like days. But come around, like I think it was like the 6th day of being in the hospital, I was jonesing, and I still hated myself. Like I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And so when I call my dealer to come see me, and I go outside for a smoke, and I seen him, and then I made sure that like when I looked at the bag and then I looked at the IV in my hand, I knew exactly what I was gonna do. And it was fucked up because like I didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, and like thank God they already had the infection under control, because like who knows, right? That could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But maybe that's why I'm here, for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, at that very moment, like I did not give a fuck.
Yeah.
I was completely apathetic. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was disgusted. You know what? I'd say it's a tie. Okay, and both times have to do with drugs.
Yeah.
And one time, so like even the terminology goof, it's like derived from the Canadian judicial jail system. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like what they would call a sexual offender, like an inmate would call a sexual offender.
So out east, though, they say diddler.
Diddler, yeah.
Same thing.
But like, if you want to fight somebody,
yeah,
in Edmonton or Alberta, like goof is the go word.
Yeah.
Hey, goof, boom. That means fight. Like that's what I was taught as a kid.
Yep.
Is like that's the worst thing you can say to anybody. And I relapsed, and I was doing good. And this was like in 2011. And wait, let me think. This was in about 2014. And I was doing good with my life, and I relapsed. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I kept saying to myself, you fucking piece of shit goof. You piece of shit goof. I just kept saying it over and over, unbeknownst to the effects of your words on yourself, and like how it affects your belief systems and stuff, and how it programs in your subconscious mind. And eventually, like at the time, I was just finishing up doing a couple kits of HGH, human growth hormone. Yeah. So I had a whole bunch of leftover needles, and I was like, and like with like the biker subculture,
yeah,
to do needles is taboo.
Oh, fucking
right. Like
yeah.
if you do needles, you're out, and that's that. You'll get stripped, whatever. So on and so forth. But so like that was like the big no my whole life, and even like before this time, I never like thought, oh, what would it be like?
Yeah.
What would it be like? But I think it was because I had this absolute disgust for myself, and I was like resisting it so much and like hating myself for doing what I chose to do, that I said to myself, you know what? Well, if you're going to be a goof, you're going to be a big goof. And that was like the first time I ever tried a needle. Yeah. And
it's almost like you're calling yourself on in order to one up yourself.
I don't even know. I don't even know what that is. Like,
I think
schizophrenic bipolar disorder.
Well, if you look at the disease of addiction, it's for sure progressive.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just. But is it progressive in the context of what were you like? See, this is the thing, right? If I was to talk about weed or cocaine, I got way more fucked up off of weed than I ever did cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine cured my alcoholism. Methamphetamine cured my alcoholism as well, for a longer period of time than cocaine did.
Well, I think like cocaine made my alcoholism, where meth stopped that in its tracks. So
Yeah. Like we used, and then when I couldn't sleep, I used heroin in order to fall asleep. Right? Like that's
that's the dream right there.
Yeah, like you use your drugs in order to get through life, basically, right?
Yep.
So all I'm getting at is that really the progression in disease is not about what we're using, it's about how we're putting it into our body and the amount that we're putting in.
Yeah.
Right? Because the fact of the matter is when we first started drinking, sure, you're blackout drunk on a 26er, but you were still a knockout, blackout drunk when you started drinking a 40. And then when you started drinking a 60, you're still a knockout, blackout drunk by then.
But it took a 60 to get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with the quantification of the amount as opposed to where you're going. Where you're going is always going to be the same end result. So just because you had used a needle, in my opinion, really doesn't mean that you, like, instead what I'm getting at is you went up to yourself in how much you could kick the shit out of yourself.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like we always talk about drawing that line in the sand and then surpassing it. And then when we surpass it, all the people around us, they surpassed it too for some reason, and now we're okay with them. Right? But before then, fuck you, you junkie fuck.
Yeah.
Shooting that shit in your arm.
Next thing you know, we're all doing it.
Douchebag. And then you cross the line, you're like, fuck. Because that's the class that you're going to.
And then your buddies follow you.
or you followed them.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I mean by the one-upmanship. Right? It's almost like you have to dig yourself that hole. I can talk about one of the lowest points in my life. My first suicide attempt was at like the age 8. And I remember being made fun of about my mom. And I remember being made fun of about my obesity and my dyslexia as a kid. And for a long time, I thought that groceries was delivered to your house. And the reason why I thought that was because in the community that I was in, that's how the food bank distributed groceries. For a long time, I didn't know that ham didn't come out of a can. I would argue with you that wasn't ham if it was like what you guys or what people know as ham. I only thought ham was the name of fucking Spam or Click or Holiday whatever, right? You had to have a key to get ham out. And so probably about the age of 8, I just couldn't take anymore. I was just done. I was just done with, here or just the whole thing. I was just done with it. I've disclosed this before. I even used to say to my mom used to said to me once, she was like, I could have given you up for adoption. And my rebuttal to her right away was, why the fuck didn't you? Why didn't you? What, you think I like living like this with you? Like, why didn't you? You had an opportunity to give me to a doctor in BC and you didn't? Because what, you wanted me to have a fucking shit life like this? I remember that as a kid. Like that's one of the most horrible things I've ever said to my mom. And me and my mother, we've talked about it today and we've gotten past it. But that was probably the catalyst to that lowest moment. And there was this guy, Jim, who was kind of, because I didn't really have a dad. And this guy, Jim, was kind of like, I guess it was more like 9 or 10, probably around there, because that's when I knew Jim. And I remember going to him and saying that I was trying to commit suicide. He looked at me just totally bewildered, like how in the hell does this little kid
even know what that means? Exactly.
How the fuck do you know what that is? And that was a serious issue. He called my mom, and my mom didn't know how to really handle it. And that was like the first time and that's when I started using drugs.
At 8?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's when I started using drugs. So that was when it happened, but I became alive when I went to a boarding school called Saganaska in Belleville, Ontario for people with dyslexia. So you had to be highly intelligent to go there. You just had to have some sort of reason of why you couldn't excel, right? And they taught you how to get past that, and they did, and that's how I basically got through high school, was because of them. But outside of that was really the first moment in my development where I knew I really hated myself. And I say this many times in the meeting is, like in the meetings that I go to, is I say, figure out what age you started hating yourself, because it was way before you started using drugs. It was way before then. And that's really the benchmark. That's the time when you need to look at and say, that's when the veil of ignorance is gone. Because that's when you started realizing that whatever development you had did not reinforce anything that was of self-esteem or anything that was positive to attract you to something even more positive in the next step. Instead, that next step became, I fucking hate this person that I'm looking at in the mirror.
Yeah, and then you start hating everybody around you.
And that's the issue, right? I don't think any, or maybe they're saying now, you know, with social media and stuff, there are more young girls slitting their wrists because of social media before the age of 12 than ever before.
Fuck, that makes me sick.
It's brutal, right? It's brutal. But I can see it even like you and I we're probably the last generation to know what life is like without internet. Like, I remember when I was, 6, 7, 8, 9, internet made sounds, you know, like that's what it did. And I remember even before that, when internet wasn't available, and then the access to information wasn't nearly as fast as it is today. And now you see these, like, I know of 2 young people in my world right now, and it's incredible to see how much screen time they have and how unfetteredly checked it is. Like, the shit that these kids are watching on YouTube is unfucking real, man. Like, it's unreal. And maybe I'm sounding old by saying this, but I would never let my kids watch something so fucking violent. Some of this shit is crazy violent.
2 boys you're talking about?
2 girls.
2 girls, and they're watching violence?
Yeah. Because it's the algorithm of YouTube. You only get what your algorithm is.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, what ends up happening is their YouTube is like whatever the dad is watching, whatever the mom is watching to a degree, but now it's filtered down into a cartoon. Like, I would not be letting 3 and 4-year-olds watch South Park.
No, fuck.
That's wrong. I wouldn't even let 10-year-olds watch South Park.
No.
My little brother, who's 17 now, he's been watching Trailer Park Boys since he was 7. What in the fuck? And my mom didn't even know about it until he was like 16 that he was watching this. She's like, I would have never let you watch Trailer Park Boys. Like, never. Like, where's the net nanny? Honestly. Yeah. There used to be blockouts on cable and all that stuff. We just don't have that. So I think what's going to happen with this social media piece is we're going to see younger ages of that dark moment at your lowest point of with the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And again, if I can refer back to that time when I was 8, when this happened to me again, or when this finally became a serious issue, was the last time I was in jail. I was totally prepared to die. Totally prepared to die in that place. And that was the catalyst for me to become who I am today. And just decided that I have to fight. There's a lot of mental issues or a lot of mental health issues that have been festering since my ages of 6, 7, 8 years old, that need to be won on a daily contingency of learning how to love myself.
Yeah.
But it started off by learning how to like myself. Yeah. And I can tell you right now, I did not like myself every day.
No.
Even though I was doing good things. Remember I kept saying, yeah, it's nice to do nice things, but why are you doing them? Are you doing it to take an inventory? Or are you doing it because that's who you are? And in the beginning, I was doing it to take an inventory.
Yeah, fuck yeah, me too.
I had to prove to myself, look, you are a good person, man.
That's what I had to do too. I had to take action to prove to myself that I am a good person.
Yeah, and then from there, and then now, I'm a good person. I don't have to work as hard at it today that I once did, because I turned that around to realizing
Yeah.
How do I love myself now?
With good, healthy habits.
And it only comes down to 4 things.
Yeah.
To humble myself, to get physical exercise, to be emotionally stable, and then the last one is to be of service. As long as those things are in place, man, it's very, very hard for my shitty committee to say, fuck you, asshole, and kick the shit out of my legs or whatever. You know what I mean? It's very, very difficult for that to happen now. But it's been a long process for that to happen, you know?
Yeah, well, you got to retrain your brain.
Yeah.
You got to retrain your brain from all the fucked up cartoons you were watching as a kid.
Did you know as well, so in recovery, so there's actual science behind the brain, obviously, right? So there's brain damage from using illicit drugs. And one of the things that they had suggested is your frontal cortex is totally fucked when you come into early recovery. That's why your decision-making skills are so reactionary. And if you ever want to compare a fighter who's never done drugs and a drug addict, their reactionary and irrational decision-making is one and the same. Now, why is that? A boxer or a fighter who's...
Fight or flight.
Yes, but it's the frontal cortex. It's all fucked. It's been smashed
Punched
in.
out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So then what do neurologists say? And you guys can fact check me on this, but neurologists will say it takes about 5 years for that frontal cortex to actually heal itself. And you will see right after 5 years, all of a sudden, like I said, remember I was saying a little while ago, I don't even know what it's like to be high anymore.
Yeah.
I also don't know what it's like to make stupid decisions. I'm not saying that I don't do it, but I do not make irrational, reactionary decisions anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. And so when I watch somebody do that and they make emotional reactions, my next thought is like, wow, how the hell, why is that happening with them? Like, how is that happening? Why is that happening? Because
But what about people that make irrational decisions that weren't boxers or ex-drug addicts?
well, there's probably mitigating factors that they're not being honest with you about. Right? Like there's probably, I would suggest maybe other mental health concerns that you may not be aware of. Right? So that's what I've come to recognize is that eventually that will go away. But again, the advantage that we have as ex-drug addicts going through the process of recovery is you have a fucking sponsor or a mentor that you're calling consistently before making a decision. And why? So you can make right decisions, right? And the reason why you're doing that is because every time you make that hard decision, the hard one, because the hard shit is the shit that's going to get you to tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not the easy stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the hard shit. So your mentor, your sponsor says, well, you got to do this. And yeah, fuck, really? I got to do it? Yeah, I guess I got to fucking do it. And then what my sponsor always did, or my mentors always did, they give me a time limit. By the time you call me tomorrow, this fucking thing has to be done. Fuck. So now I got no time for anything else. I got to fucking deal with my emotions right now and do a Geronimo jump. And
That's how I felt when you told me I have to have a blog ready for the morning.
and then go do it.
And
right?
then go do it.
So what I recognized by that was it allows you to look at the hard decision and just get a fuck it attitude. Fuck it, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it the best way that I know how. Fuck it, I'm doing it.
See, I guess you can have a case of the fuck it's,
And
right? And go either way.
That's right. And so when you do the hard thing in that fuck it attitude, what ends up happening, what the fruit of that labor gives you is you just changed your thinking pathology.
The fruit of the positive fuck it.
And then the other piece is we call it a psychic moral change. Right? That's what some people call this. Well, how does that change? How does that psychic moral change happen? How does that happen? How does that intuition happen? By doing the hard thing. As opposed to going to go do the thing that we want to do. Right? It's always, I've come to love the hard way. I've come to endorse it. I've come to say to myself, like Kettlebell Keith was on the show and he said, I get my jollies off thinking about what the next hard exercise is going to be and how it might hurt my calves. And I'm like, you sadist masochist, fuck, right? like that's it's almost what I'm thinking in the back of my head. I do the same thing to myself in the gym, right? I do the same thing to myself in the gym. And why is it? Well, because that dedication and that dedication that it takes in order to do the hard thing is going to become in every part of your life.
Like a thirst for results?
I don't know if it's a thirst of results. I think it's more of a thirst of challenge.
Okay.
Because the results, I mean, I don't give a fuck what the results are really anymore. All I know is that I did 18 minutes on the fucking Tydax bike and I got 204 calories burnt this morning. That's what I know.
Yeah.
What's the result of that? I don't know.
Well, you got 200 calories burnt.
That's right. Means I'm not burning any. I got 20 extra calories after I took my protein shake today. That's what it means.
That would mean an extra double Big Mac for me.
So that, I guess what I'm getting at is the result, the fruits of the fruits or the result of whatever is going to happen from that hard decision that I made will probably prevail itself later. But I'm more concentrating on, let's just get through the 5 minutes. Let's get through the 20 minutes. That's all I'm concentrating on. And what's going to come later? It's great. It's okay. That's just icing.
Yeah.
But the cake is actually made out of all the hard work.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that.
So that's kind of what the catalyst is, in my opinion, from coming from the lowest point of your life. And there's many points that we've had at the lowest point of our lives. Like I remember sitting in that cell, man. I didn't even have money for fucking Grays. So just to give context to the listeners, here in Alberta, you're not allowed to wear pants or shirts when you're in a remand setting or provincial setting. You have to wear a jumpsuit 24 hours a day.
Or sweatpants.
If you can afford them.
If you're lucky, if the institution provides them. Some of them, you're just in your coveralls.
That's right. And so
day in, day out.
I was in an institution where I could get a sweater, or I could get a sweater and I could get jogging pants and a t-shirt. But my family had walked away from me. And, or I should say I also walked away from them. And there was no money. And in Alberta, well, this particular institution was kind of a shit institute, as they all are. If I had been caught sleeping without my coveralls on, that was a street charge of indecent exposure. And they had warned me twice. So if it happened, so I was like basically sleeping in my underwear, and there was no t-shirts given at this particular institution. So I was just sleeping in my underwear underneath the sheets, and they could see that my shoulders were showing. So they had just assumed that I was only sleeping in my underwear, and that was indecent exposure. And that was a pretty low moment for me, realizing this is not where I want to fucking be in life. And maybe it would be easier just to die,
Yeah.
That's where
when they tell you that if you get caught jerking off, you get a self-mutilation charge.
Yeah.
You go to the hole.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shitty place to be, but I guess that had to happen in order for change to happen, right?
Yeah, the way of the cross.
Yeah.
Through pain comes enlightenment.
Well, and it's also about picking up your cross, Just pick that shit up and fucking carry it, man. It's not a big deal. And it's going to get lighter as you go. You don't have to contribute to that pain. You have to learn to fucking shed it off, It's not about enduring it for the rest of your life, and you could call that anything. You could call it your kettlebell, you could call it your cross, you could call it the weight, whatever you want to call it.
The baggage.
Yeah, like the word, the cross is only
Jesus' baggage.
It's utilized in a way of being in a religious context, and it's not really. The only reason why they had used that is because it's a lot of weight to carry. It's a huge burden.
Yeah.
Because really what they meant by the cross was, what are all your sins or transgressions or
herpes,
whatever it is.
Just kidding, I don't have herpes.
That's a good thing to know. So I don't have to clean the toilet seat as much?
No, not as much.
The last one is I think we could probably run this for the entire month. What are some of the messed up relationships / breakups you've had?
Well, I've had some where it's like, boom, it's over, you're out, see ya. And it's like, as fast as I can pack my shit or they can pack their shit, they're out of there. I don't care if it's let me rephrase. I didn't care if it was minus 30 or not. See you later. But I'd have to say what tops the charts.
But why? What would put you in a place? What would put you in a place that would make you so angry that
anything? Because like I was like ridiculously codependent. I suffered from separation anxiety. So it's like, fuck you, you said you're leaving? I hate you.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out. How could you leave?
And they don't even know why. You just lost it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't even know why.
Yeah. Or it's like,
because they should, right? They should know why.
Your phone was off? What the fuck were you doing?
Who was in you? Who
Yeah.
was in you then while your phone was off?
Yeah, obviously your phone was off. You had a dick in you. Period. That's factual. You're gone, right?
Yeah. You just admitted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like, heaven forbid one of those poor girls ever stood up for themselves in my full-blown narcissism and egocentric attitude. No. Heaven forbid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Are you talking back to me?
We're a lovely person inside of our straw / glass.
Well, you got to understand, like I'm strung out on drugs. I was raised by an verbally abusive mother, and like I love my mother. Just at that time, she went through some PMS, and that's what really it did fuck me up a bit. But like, so I had that, but then I was taught my fucking morals and ethics, and the way to treat women was from my father.
Yeah.
And that's like fucking greasy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've seen him punch out a chick right in front of me when I was like 6 years old.
Yeah, that's
a real fucking thing, right?
I've seen that in the hood, out on the street. I've seen my mom go through it too.
Yeah. So I was a shitty boyfriend. I was a really, really shitty boyfriend. But what I'd say is would have to top the charts, and I'm not going to go into specific details, but
we'll be doing this segment again.
Okay, but there's some details that will be blurred. Okay, so in this relationship that lasted maybe about 3 months, there was intravenous cocaine, intravenous methamphetamine, Oxycontin, and a whole bunch of criminal activity.
Yeah.
Just your average Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And like at one time, this girl, she was like smoking, off of the Batman movie, Harley Quinn.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, spitting image
of
her when she was like normal. But then you add crystal meth into her veins and she turned into Harley Quinn. Okay? Gorgeous girl. Beautiful. So like one time she like pulled a shotgun on me and like pointed it right at me and cocked this thing, and like I just like in one fluid moment grabbed the barrel, took it away from my face, pulled it, got it out of her hands, butt ended her in the ribs with the butt end of the gun, and then when she fell down crying, I like held her down with it and pinned her, and she's screaming. So I was scared because we were in an apartment, and I was like, oh my God, the cops are going to come.
Yeah.
So like I made it so she couldn't scream anymore. Like I didn't choke her unconscious or anything, but I just like covered her mouth and let her breathe out of her nose. I can't get charged for this shit. I'm like really scared about talking about this. It's okay. I'll call her after the show. I'm not saying her name. And that was like, oh shit, this relationship is on the rocks. That
was the moment where you're like, oh no, this might be done.
Yeah, we're precariously perched along the lines of like the Addams Family and the Addams Family and what's some crazy motherfucker that killed all the bodies? Like the Rob Zombie movie.
Sure. Oh yeah, Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. It was kind of like Devil's Rejects type like feeling to the relationship after that. Because it's like, I fucking gonna kill you. And she's like, oh, I kind of like it when he hits me. Right? It was really fucked
Wow.
up. But then, so the relationship ended in a really funny way. A vehicle got lit on fire. And there was a high-speed chase, and both of us ended up in jail. And then she got out and went and stayed with my dad.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, so we all know where that went because my dad's chivalry, right?
You might want to explain that to the listeners.
Well, like, she probably banged my dad. Well,
Was her phone off?
I'm calling from jail and she's at his house. Hey, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing there? Well, he bailed me out.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Where the fuck's my bail?
Yeah, how'd you pay for that bail?
Yeah.
Um,
How'd you feel in that moment?
oh fuck, like a bag of deep fried bruised dicks.
Yeah, that would have sucked, eh?
Yeah. That was pretty fucked up, right? But that was one of the points where it's like, I need to change my life. I really drastically need to change everything about myself.
Yeah.
And
So that's a low point.
that was another low point,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of them. Actually. We could just talk all day about low points. We could have like 6 episodes specifically just on low points.
So this, I guess, I kind of talked about this yesterday. Did I talk about this on the air about being on a mountain and all that stuff and turning around? I think I did.
Was it on air or was it just you and I talking?
I can't remember. Anyways, this was my last relationship before the one that I'm in. And so like there was probably about 3 or 4 months where have you ever, so you know that tension in a house where it's so thick you can't even breathe because the two people just really dislike each other?
Yeah, and you can't even talk.
Imagine 4 months of that.
Ugh.
Just every day.
You just gave me goosebumps.
Every day. 4 months of that. We wouldn't talk to each other. So like I was saying, there was no goodbye in the morning. It was just, she'd just leave. And I, at the time, wasn't working. I was starting this self-starter lifestyle, which basically means I was living off EI and just a fucking loser. Basically, in the moment is what I was. I was learning how to be a self-starter. And she definitely made it known that I was a financial fucking
Dipshit.
midget at
Yeah.
that moment. You know what I mean?
You got a little dick.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, you know? She definitely helped me out financially here and there.
Yeah.
And you want to feel like an asshole. It's one thing to ask your mom for money, right? That doesn't feel great. But it's another thing when your girlfriend's like, I'll pay your bills this month. You're like, fuck. And then the other thing that had happened was I started buying because I got a fair amount of a settlement, so to say, when I left my last survey firm. And so what I did with that money was I bought a whole bunch of hiking equipment that I needed. It also could be for work as well, right? The only thing that this person said to me was, I thought you were going to buy me an engagement ring. Oh, boy, were they wrong. And then, so, you know, like any healthy couple, we took this shit out. We started fighting one night. We were living in the ghetto here in Edmonton. And like anybody with any respect or self-respect for themselves, you take fights out on the street. And you scream at each other on passing cars. You know, wasn't bad enough that I was already under the watchful eye of my bail conditions that we needed to make a production like this in front of hookers and anybody else that was standing on the corner that night. So
Excuse me. I think that's not correct to say hookers.
Oh, well, dick suckers for money? I don't know. So you gotta remember here, I was a pimp. So anyways, here we are yelling at each other, and the damnedest thing. So this person actually worked in a treatment center, not at the time, but in their past. And so she started saying to me, she goes, "You know what? I did something awful to you." And I'm like, "What? Did you take a dick? Like what happened?" And she's like, "I read your journal," and started crying. And I'm like, "Not even a big deal at all. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You read my journal?" And she's like, I would have kicked people out of this treatment center that I worked at, blah, 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 if they had did that. Now here I am stooping that low because I don't even know who the fuck you are, is what she's saying to me, right? And then she said something like, it says in that book that you would never even marry me and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I'm like, look it, man.
You shouldn't have read my shit then.
Exactly. Like, I write in a journal because there's no consequence. I say whatever the hell I want in that journal, and there's no consequence. When I say it out loud to you verbally, I'm going to pay for that shit for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Especially if it's something mean or hurtful or whatever. So I'm actually, it doesn't mean that I mean it. All it means is at that moment, I wanted to sound horn that off because I felt that it was necessary for whatever reason. Exactly.
You just had to let it go.
And so they obviously took it to the cunt. And, they couldn't get past that. And this was like, so this is 4 months of silence. And then this was the last conversation before my mom was coming to visit me after, I don't know, I think I hadn't seen my mom in 8 years at that point because of active addiction and whatever. And this person really thought that they were going to meet my mom. My mom's never met any woman in my life. None. Like, the ongoing joke is that I'm gay, even though I'm not. That's what my mom calls me, little bitch, right? Because she's never met any women in my life. And the reason why I don't do that is because I just don't want my mom to have to meet people that won't be in my life for a long period of time, especially from the opposite sex, you know? Yeah. And we come from a life or a world, or I come from a life or a world where your mother is used as collateral. You know, we'll fucking whack her out. You know, you fuck around. We know. So for a long time in my life, I used to say my mom's dead. She didn't even exist. That was my defense mechanism for her, right? So this is what I did. So anyways, she thought that she was going to meet my mom, and that never happened. As a matter of fact, my mom left, and that's when I took off for that hike. And it came back, and I called her, and I was like, basically, long story short, I was like, I'm back in town, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I don't even care anymore. And then that was it.
No, you got to tell the story, man. Fuck, you just killed it.
What do you mean?
So, like, he walked 24 miles.
24 kilometers.
24 kilometers into the bush, up perched on the top of this mountain peak like an eagle. And he has this clear vision that he needs to go back to her and profess his love to her.
So the old photo, so the new photo's up now for Life on Life Streams, but the old photo of that mountain, that's the mountain I was looking at. It's my favorite place ever in the world. That's why that picture is that.
That's why where you got the...
That was the day that I got that photo. And you see the rainbow at the bottom. That was the day. And I literally turned around and hiked out 24 kilometers that day. Back to the van, got to the van. I thought I was going to die because that's a lot of hiking through serious elevation gain and drop. Like my heart was fucked after that. Like, it was fucked. Yeah. Just from the up and down. And then realized that I needed to drive back to Edmonton, which was about a 5.5 hour drive from where I was after like an all day 25 kilometer hike. Got back into the city, took my shower, called her, and we were supposedly living in the same place. Well, supposedly we were living in the same place. And called her, and that was all she said to me was, I just don't care anymore. So at this time, I thought I was going back to prison. Well, because I was on bail, so I wasn't sure if I was like and the Crown was asking for 14 years for me at that time. So when I left, I left her with everything.
Here's the thing. Like, how I want to hear from other people.
Yeah.
How do you break up healthy?
You should put that on the Facebook. Put that on a question for the Facebook.
How do you break up healthy? I have no fucking idea. I know that if I go through a breakup of a relationship,
you know what?
Where it hasn't ran its course and it's both a mutual thing.
This was the healthiest breakup I ever had because it was mutual. It was mutual. The only shitty piece was the passive aggressiveness.
What about when it's not mutual? How do you just take it? Like, you love this person and they're like, fucking see ya.
So I'll throw this bone to you. This is the first. So I'm in a relationship right now, and this is the first relationship ever in my life I'm not shacked up with my partner, and it's been since like August till now, roughly.
Separate places. You don't get in each other's hair.
For a while. For a while. This way, if you have to break up with them,
It's easy.
let's go for a coffee.
Not even.
Right?
Ghosted. Ghosted.
Come on. Come on. You gotta have more self-respect than that. Just duck them.
Just fucking hide them. Block their phone number. And
But that's definitely an issue that we can talk about that on the next episode is shacking up too early.
I was shacked up with my girlfriend before we were even together. So that's just how it happened.
That silence said everything.
Awkward.
yeah.
Well, no.
If we could describe the look I gave you across the table, it was like the emoji would be, I don't even know. It was just a look like, you were shacked up before you were even an item.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That might be an issue.
Well, it might be a blessing.
Could be. I mean, there's always one in a million.
Yeah,
But
I got her.
As my sponsor.
Yesterday, I was at the studio here with Justin, and she brings me lunch. And today, she packed me a lunch. I fucking love her.
Yeah, how far are you into Melody Beatty's book?
Well, actually, we're reading it together out loud to each other.
Oh yeah.
We're reading the codependent book in the most codependent way. Because if we're not there to read it to each other, then it doesn't get read.
Are you being serious?
Absolutely.
Holy fuck.
I'm absolutely being serious.
Oh my god.
I thought it would be cute.
I don't even know what the fuck to say.
Hey, if the book gets read, the book gets read. Okay?
Yeah. And I remember, I thought you had said this to me before. I thought you were kidding around.
No,
but-
I'm fucking dead
And
serious.
you also said to me that when we get to the hard parts, we just stare at each other's eyes.
We just look at each other. We're like, "Fuck you." When we get to a part in the book where it
Oh
makes
my
you know, it's like I read something and it's like more her and not me, right? I look at her and I raise my eyebrows, like, "Oh," and then like I read something and it's more about me and not about her. And I look at her because I know I'm guilty, and she's looking at me, shaking her head like with this shit-eating grin on her face.
God.
Yeah, it's fun actually.
It's fucked up is what it is. That's fucked up. It's supposed to be self-development, not couples development.
Well, it's how a codependent couple becomes not codependent at the exact same time.
You're supposed to read it at different times.
I don't know. It didn't say that in the beginning.
Or at least read it individually and private.
I
And
didn't
then-
see any warning labels on the book, Justin.
It's like this. When you and I are talking about it, there's a discussion about the formed opinions that are coming from it. Remember we were talking about hostage taking and what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
might
yeah.
look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is how we don't hostage take. But if you and I were reading the book together, we started manipulating each other by looks and passive aggressiveness.
We're way past that.
Oh, well,
But I guess that leaves more content for a different episode.
if you want to wrap it up, it'd be much appreciated.
Please subscribe and share with all your friends. You can find the After the Show blog at www.lifeonlifetermspodcast.com. Please become a Pride member at your soonest convenience. Drop us your email, either by our email, which is kenny@lifeonlifetermspodcast.com, or justin@lifeonlifetermspodcast.com, or you can put it in the comment box on the website.
It'll actually ask you as soon as you come up on the website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And give us that Libsyn. If you want all the content, all of the episodes,
http://lifeonlifesterms.libsyn.com/website.
now spell Libsyn.
LIBSYN.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're on the website too, I think there will be a link. We'll be putting a link up.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be a link on the. But I would assume if you're listening to the show, you're probably listening through Libsyn.
Yeah, and
I'll bet you.
You're probably already a Pride
And we're
member.
pretty much everywhere. We're on all the apps now. Like for sure, if there's an app out there and we don't know about it, leave me a message, and I'm going to make sure that we're on it.
Yeah.
Because I've been pretty diligent on getting us all on all the apps.
Justin's a fucking maniac. He's the best.
So
he's the best.
Do you want to be? Did you do the financial contribution?
No, I was just getting there,
all
man.
Right.
Jeez,
all
don't
right.
go off
all
half-cocked.
Right.
Fuck.
That's why I asked first.
If you would like to become a financial contributor, we do have a Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/life on life's terms with capital L's. A contribution as little as $5 a month. We will send you all the good vibes we can.
And get more bloggers. We're looking for bloggers.
Yeah, we need some more bloggers. You will become a life on life's term lifer.
Yeah.
And you will have the possibility to become a co-host and content creator later on.
Definitely. And I am going to be participating at a retreat at Star of the North the weekend after Valentine's Day. It's basically 12-step orientated. It will be myself and Archbishop Sylvain Lavoie, who will be facilitating this retreat. It's over 3 days.
Did you get me tickets?
Not yet.
Okay, I want to come.
He's once he comes back, we'll
okay.
Yeah, because he's out right now. But yeah, so anyways, I'll be there for that weekend. Go to Star of the North, pick up those tickets. You don't have to stay at the retreat house. You can go home and be in and out.
But they have good food, and it's like it smells like grandma's house in there.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's like an old refurb nunnery or something like that. Yeah. And it's really nice. It's
beautiful. The Eagle Room is amazing. That's usually the room they give me, but I probably won't get it this year.
No, I'm taking it.
It's an amazing room. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful Friday.
LAVIA, man.